I'm coming back to you, and we should be live in about 10 seconds. Let's see.
9, 8, 7. So I'm number 51, eh?
You are number 51. Hey, everyone, we're live. It's Sir Rithkin and Antir, and I'm here with Duke Bryce from Meridies, who I'm looking forward to talking to. He said he might even rap for us, which, that would be cool. We haven't had anyone do that yet, so.
Well, I have. So if I'm following Duke Timothy, I mean, the guy who's set up and started Adult Swim, I got to do something to entertain. So.
Yeah. Well, we usually start these with your SCA origin story, like where you found it and when. And so if you want to start there, that would be great.
Sure. So started in North Alabama. I was 16, 17. I can't remember when we started it, but it's been a bit. 1983, I think. And like probably 99.9% of people who find the SCA, you have a D&D group, and they say, "Hey, we found this." My good friend Sir Connell said, "Hey, there's this group of people out at the park, and they swinging sticks and with armor." And I said, "Dude, I'm in." So the next weekend, next time they had fighter practice, I came on out, and I think we had maybe one, maybe two helmets at the time. We had one loaner helmet, and then someone had a nice, Sir Abeck had a nice helmet, although it was kind of based off of an Italian soldier's helmet or something like that. So we exchanged a lot of armor. Most of the time it was nasty shag carpeting, if not worse. Now my first attempt was even worse, but I got the PVC pipe legs, I got the catcher's shin guards, and I even
still use those.
Oh, I do. But has anybody kept their first helmet? I have.
Oh, hey.
So this time, a fine gentleman named Larry helped me build this thing, and here it is.
Wow.
It is ugly. In fact, that's the call. That was what it's called. It's called the Ugly Helm. In fact, someone drew a little landing strip on the top of it.
That's hilarious.
I used to have a little target right here too, like just a bullseye. Yeah. So
and you made that.
Yeah. Kind of just, I'm not exactly sure how it did, but it's just, it's 16 gauge mild steel, many a dent. Ugh. So anyway, thanks to Sir Connell for sussing that up, or he gave it to me during the last rain. So presented to me in court, my original first helm. So that was cool.
He clean it up for you?
No. It's supposed to be dirty and nasty. That's the way it stays. So anyway, we started back then, and really we were still in high school. Really didn't go to many events, but we hit practice like every week, and we tried weird stuff. I mean, the first thing I fought with was a bastard sword that probably weighed 10 pounds. Called it Shield Breaker, and it was horrible. Yeah, so I'm running around there swinging this thing, and people clocking me upside the head, and we're all giggling. And in fact, then we started figuring out, well, hey, shields are good, but bigger shields are better. So we all built these huge coffin lids, and we were pretty much running around playing armored football, just because we were all kind of, we were beefy guys that we could run into each other and bounce off each other, fall on the ground, giggling. Our technique was probably not that great because we didn't really have anybody to learn from at the time. Until we started, until we started going to events and hooking up with like the Birmingham, Alabama fighter practice, because there were a couple nights down there that would help us out. And but then we all went to college, and so I kind of dropped off the radar for the SCA for about 2 or 3 years because I went to Alabama and I marched in marching band. So there's a whole lot of months there that no events, no nothing. Your weekends are locked for football. But then about 3 years into college, I picked it up, and my other friends were at Georgia Tech and some other places. And just to reconnect with the friends, I said, hey, they invited me over to an event. So we started going to some events. We had the old Glen Ree crew, so we still kind of tied up. We'd still meet in Decatur, Alabama, and fighter practice every once in a while because that's where my parents live, that's where their parents live, and we had some support staff there. We had our first, Duchess Caroline, who's kind of our SCA mom at the time before she became Duchess and all that. So, we're a bunch of friends just hanging out, and finally just kind of dabbling it in college. Then after graduating college, then I guess right before I graduated, I guess I got kind of serious because then I, became a squire to Sir Kyle Kincora from Mobile, and him and his wife, now Duchess Rhiannon, she got the SCA in the divorce, so he decided to not to play after a while. But at the time, it happens.
It does.
But at the time, he was, the household was a really great household, but they were a little bit far away. So my friend Duke Baru and Sir Connell, they were squired to Sir Earl Richard Rafin, who was closer actually to me. So I kind of hung out with them on the slide. So he was kind of a foster knight to me a little bit. Helped, he always included me on the household functions. I always call it, hey, we're having a party, we're having a household get together, come on down. So I was always included there. And we had House Kincora stuff down in Mobile when I could make the trip down to there. And so I had best of both worlds, had effectively almost 2 nights, sometimes 3, depending on who was around. Meridies were very, very, this is one of our, I think our really great cultures is that knights teach anybody. I mean, we don't have our squires, our household, and we're only going to teach you in this way, which I think back in the day, a long time ago, some of the kingdoms were kind of selective on who they trained, how they trained. They were, hey, don't talk to my squire. I'm teaching them a certain something. I ran into that, I think, at Penzic once. I was teaching somebody, and they came up and said, hey, you shouldn't teach him stuff because he's learning other stuff. I'm like, that's weird. And okay, though, if that's how you do it, that's how you do it. But in Meridies, we all, teach everybody the same. We'll sit over there and, okay, this is how you beat me. Here you go. Try it. Come on. You can beat me. Try it. Or here's a cool shot that I threw and stuff like that. And so that culture was really, I picked up stuff from everybody. I would go to, so when I was in Tuscaloosa, the group, the home group there was kind of nebulous. It's college town, so people in and out. You'd have a couple of members or stuff like that. So I really used events to learn how to fight and learn the SCA, of course, too. So I'd go to places, seek out people, especially knights who had not fought before, and fight them, learn their tricks, learn their shots, try to incorporate them into what I did. So my skill set was a little different, and that's basically how I got to squiredom, and then right prior to knightdom, about a year. So that's my origin.
Were you fighting sword and shield then?
I was fighting sword and shield. Sometimes a little 2-stick, sometimes glaive. I fought all sorts of stuff. I changed shields. I went from that big honking coffin lid to a strap-on round. Just whoop, whoop. 2 different things, from big thing covering me all over the place to that. And I did it by myself. And then my knight said, Kyle said afterwards, I was going to make you do it anyway, because that thing is a crutch. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Why did you decide to do it? Is it because you wanted
got bored?
Okay.
Got bored. Well, and also I couldn't block leg wraps with it. It was horrible. I went to a border raids, and some mid-realm guy taught me the error of my ways as far as leg wraps, and hit me 3 times right in the same spot that I had nothing there. And I hollered an expletive and immediately apologized to everybody in the whole known world. I'm so sorry, but that hurt so effing much. And then I, compounded it. But no, it actually got me to move my feet better, to where I can move around, look at angles and stuff. We're a kingdom, I think, of a lot of movement. We're not static. We were, I was brought up as brawlers with all the guys, especially Duke Gareth and Duke Baru, Sir Connell. We're big hefty guys. We tried to use our weight. Using the round shield, you kind of have to be careful with that. You can't really commit, I would say. So tried a bunch of different, I fought a bunch of different weapon styles, which kind of helped. It helped me a lot in my first crown win.
Was it a multiple weapons format?
Yep, sure was.
How did you choose your knight?
I had two offers at the time. One was Earl Phelan and Sir Kyle, and which was funny because Sir Kyle just got knighted, and Earl Phelan had offered to me, said, "But hold on, just to, think about it." And so in the time that it was thinking about it, Sir Kyle got knighted, and Sir Kyle was Phelan's squire. And they had a little talk, and then I had a little talk with both of them, and Kyle was closer, plus brand new knight. Earl Phelan said, "I'd love to have you, but I think he's a little closer, and I think y'all are the similar age group, stuff like that. You'd be a better fit." And it worked out that way. Plus, the household, Rhiannon, who's my second SCA mom, but also my second consort. So, okay, my family tree's a bush. We'll figure that out someday. But yeah, she was a big decision. The whole household thing was a big decision, or a big. There's a lot of little things in it, and so that's how I picked them. So I thought about it, failing for a bit, was thinking about it, and then Kyle popped up, and it was a better fit. Personality was too.
When you that last year in college, when you started doing the SCA more, how did you immerse yourself in events? Like, how did you go from just doing fighter practice to going to events?
Literally, and it's the same. It's what's brought me back time and time again. It's like going to see my friends. I would actually check to see what events my friends were going to, and the more events I went to, the more friends I got. And so then it became where I could go anywhere, and at that time, Meridies was pretty big. We had all the way out to Shreveport, Louisiana, up to Knoxville, Tennessee, down to Mobile, across here to Atlanta. So you're looking at 8 to 9 hours all the way across. I know, Ontier, you're the biggest. But
Drakenwald's the biggest, but
yeah, technically, yeah. But to go from side to side, but everybody kind of meets in the middle, so at least you get some out there. And then like we went to Giant Stance, which is up in Knoxville, meet more people. It's kind of where I started seeing Alan on. We actually probably started the same, but he was way up there, and so we didn't cross paths for a couple years. But plus I was dabbling. I think he was dabbling too. So
you guys weren't in the same D&D group?
No, we weren't. Duke Brew, Sir Connell, and did I play with Gareth? I can't remember. He moved to no, I don't think I ever played with Gareth. He got my books though, because my player's handbook has Gareth his name in it, and it's my name on top of it, so it's mine, but it's kind of his. The funny story about Gareth, how I met him. Fighting my first tournament. He's from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we're the same like brothers. And so that's not the only thing we've shared. First tournament, it's a newbie tournament. I win it. There wasn't a whole lot of people in it, but so I'm tired, and he's going to fight in the second tournament. And he forgot his cup, and he said, "Hey man, can I borrow your cup?" And I was like, "Of course, man." So we became cup brothers after that. Before we became D&D.
That's a
brothers.
Good friend.
And has been ever since.
That's funny. So did you fall in love with the other parts of the SCA besides the fighting after you started eventing?
Yeah. Oh, so definitely I was in it for the fighting at first. Then I started, actually, I think going out, I was supporting the household for something. It was a Kingdom A&S out in Arkansas. And, no fighting, no nothing. So I just go out there to help. It was one of the funnest events I've ever had. First of all, no stress. Don't have to get up to get an armor inspection. I'm laying there and watching all the little apprentices kind of scurrying around going crazy. I'm going, I get invited to taste all the cordials. That was fun. And then helped out in the kitchen and just did a whole lot of the service aspect. So as far as the service part, Duchess, Mistress Rhiannon, she was we were a heavy service household, always volunteering for kingdom events, fundraisers. She was always doing either feasts or um, autocrating, stuff like that. So we were doing something almost every month somewhere. So the service was easy because I find it fun.
Yeah.
The art stuff, I guess I started picking up when I started drumming. So, go to Penzic. What are you going to do? Well, fight during the day and then go around and party and stuff like that. And I like drum circles, and I got, being in band, and I always kind of wanted to be a drummer. I was a trombone player, but I always kind of wanted to be. I was kind of wanted to be a drummer, so I picked up the drum. Me and Malachi, who's now Sir Malachi from Kaid, just started piddling around on it. And guess what we found out is that, hey, you get really good seats at belly dance circles, and that's really nice.
Lots of eye candy.
Oh yeah. And a lot of times you get invited into, like, Penzic's a little weird because they're sometimes, some of the parties are a little, closed. But you're a drummer, you'll get pulled right on in. Easy. So that was also an entryway to it. But then I started researching it. I took some lessons. Malachi and I put together a drum tape way back in the day, and so I've been drumming ever since. I drum at golf courses all the time. I've got a page up here called the Drumming Cult. So Bryce's Drumming Cult.
That's cool. So let's go back to when you got squired. How long between getting squired and getting knighted?
I think it was 1988. I think I was squired. 88 or 87, and I was knighted in 1993. So about 5 years ish in that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, about 5 years, 4 to 5 years, somewhere there.
And what did your training regimen look like in that
back then?
Time? What?
Back then, fight. Go to I went to all the major tournaments. When pickup started, first on, last off. Fought, and unless there was other, like, unless we were helping out and doing other service type stuff, or at the time, towards the end of it, I was like, okay, I got entourage duty. So because with Baru winning, Gareth winning, I've started getting lined up and stuff before I won. So we that was it. It was just whenever I could fight, and usually fought most of the time 2 times a week, always. But it was intense. I mean, I'd go to the biggest, since I lived in Tuscaloosa, I'd either go to Birmingham, or sometimes I'd go all the way home up to Decatur, or sometimes I'd go even to South Downs, which is over Atlanta, and just find the biggest fighter practices I could.
How long of a drive is that for you? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Squired in 88. Yeah, it's 88, 92. Okay. The drive to other people messaging me. Let's get my numbers right. The drive to Birmingham was easy. It's 45 minutes.
Okay.
To Atlanta is probably 3.5 hours. And to Decatur, it's about an hour and a half from when I was going to school.
And did you have other components of your training regimen? Did you do like cardio or weights or pill work?
Yeah. When I was in college, basically I did, so we had the rec center, so it's weights, weight room. I did a lot of intramural stuff, so basketball, flag football, marching band, just a little bit of stuff. When I got out of college, I always tried to work out 3 times a week in something. I'd belong to a gym or something like that. And out of college, I started trying to find 2 to 3 fighter practices wherever I could, because my first job was up in North Carolina. So I was in Atlanta for a little bit, and kind of south. It was kind of South Atlanta, so I wasn't up there where their big fighter practice was. I would make it up there every once in a while, like to Greensboro. They would have theirs. But that was only for a couple of years that I lived up there. And then I moved to Atlanta, and then Atlanta, that we had big fighter practices back then, big ones.
So was your knighting a surprise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was voted on that morning, or actually it was a fighters collegium, and it was on a holiday weekend. So we had was a 3-dayer. Fought. They had the Knights meeting. Put me on my vigil that night. Didn't know about it. Had no idea. I was singing and rapping at the time when the king comes in and says, "Hey, guess what? We're putting you on vigil." I went, "No way." Really? and my knight said, "If you'd have said cool, I was going to hit you." I didn't say cool. I thought it.
I probably
So
would.
yeah, well, I thought cool, and yeah, it was really, really cool. The vigil was set up by Master Johannes, and it was preset with all the knights brought their swords and their helmets, or no, just brought all their swords, and they put them all in a row, and he read off or I can't remember if it was him or somebody else read off the kind of a lineage or some sort of poetry about some sort of thing about that sword, and they charged me, you have to pick your own sword. And so went down, and finally picked one that had that when he said my heraldry, I was like, oh, that's my sword. And I picked it up out of the ground. And I remember the funniest one was when he was talking about Duke Ryan's sword, that the sword's owner here has a checkered past because he had all sorts of checky stuff. Plus Ryan was a player, so it definitely fit him. But no, I picked the right sword, and then they put me into a tent, and I had the vigil till about 3 a.m, and that was fun. Very interesting. I don't remember a lot of advice. For some reason, I felt like I was a priest and people were confessing their sins to me. It was one of those type vigils. Like lots of people came in and really bared their soul. I mean, it was wonderful, but it was a little, it freaked me out just a little bit.
It's a little surreal, right?
Very, very.
Yeah.
You know, I was expecting, hey, don't take a squire to a first year. Hey, you know, by the way, I didn't vote for you, but, you know, I think you got promised or something like that. I did have Duke Stefan will come in and says, I voted against you because I didn't want to curse you. Said, I didn't want you to be, you would have been unanimous. And we've had a couple that didn't turn out so well when that happened. And I'm like, okay, thanks for not voting for me then. And he was a great friend. The only guy who had to haggle up on his helmet price.
I think it's so interesting, like inter-kingdom anthropology wise, the people I've talked to from Meridies and Atlantia and some of the other East Coast kingdoms, you guys really do poll like that. On the West Coast, at least what I'm used to, we just sort of have
gauge the group, and the king, the king and queen make the choice. It's different. It's something I've always been used to, so it's not been ever weird to me.
Well, I don't think it's weird. I just think it's different, and it's interesting, right? And it's interesting that somebody would tell you whether it was unanimous or not. Like,
right?
That's interesting. Anyway, I mean,
yeah,
that's
it's
for you.
technically maybe a violation, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's not a violation once they put the belt on you, right?
Yeah, right. Then it's like, don't tell anybody for the next 6 hours before we put the belt on you. Yeah.
So it sounds like other people knew though that the polling was going to happen and that it was probably going to be positive.
Yeah. Kyle wasn't around for a year. He went over to Kuwait to do some automotive training out there, and so at the time my sponsor became Duke Ryan von Gunter, and I guess he handled the discussions and stuff like that, and he kind of told me some stuff that I should be doing, I guess in reference to the discussions. Basically, he just said, "Hey, you need to go over here." Okay, because there was some people who just hadn't seen me or know me as well, and then, but I guess because what we have is that we have an informal discussion, then we have a formal discussion, and then after that, then you have a polling. Sometimes we've changed the rules a little bit now that you can have the formal discussion and then the polling right after it, and the crown can ask for a polling whenever, so that sort of thing. But we in our rules, that's kind of the process it went. So he had a pretty good idea before the polling happened that it was going to be good.
Did somebody make you like a tunic or something? Like, was
I
it
had a white thing.
Yeah.
Rhiannon and a couple other people said, "Hey, go in there, take a shower." I came out. They put the white thing on me and then doused me with bug spray because the bugs were horrible. Skeeters everywhere. It's in the middle of Montgomery, Alabama, in like September. It's 90 degrees in a bowl. It's hot. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun.
So what was your ceremony like?
Ceremony was I'm trying to remember it. It was pretty. I wouldn't say it was generic. I'm pretty sure Johannes wrote it again. He had a different. Well, no, that was a vigil. He did the vigil, but the ceremony was basically people bringing up and telling me what what each part of the regalia stood for them. The chain being all of us are linked together to the crown, and you're only as strong as the weakest link, and don't be that weakest link. Stuff like that. White purity, sword. It's been a bit. So, and at the time, it's kind of like being married. You kind of like, wow, everybody's saying nice things about me. They're putting stuff on me. Wow, I got hit. Oh, there's a sword. I'm a knight.
Nice.
Hey, yay, winning.
So after you got knighted, did you was there a difference in how you were treated or how you trained?
A little. The training still remained the same. I got a little. First of all, everybody was overemphasizing Sir Bryce, Sir Bryce, Sir Bryce. You get you get Sir Rifkin. Everybody's putting that extra oomph into it. For about a year, actually about 6 months probably, and then it just kind of became, hey, Sir Bryce. So more. Then they identified it with me rather than being the new baby knight. I'm the knight, and my training didn't change much. At that time, I was out of college, had a job, had some disposable income, so was going to a lot of different places. Got one crown not too long after that. I fought in it once as a squire, and then I think once as a knight or twice as a knight, can't remember. And was middle of the road there. Well, the last time I came in third, and then won the multiple weapon ones.
So the other people I've talked to in Meridies, it's not cultural for everyone to fight crown. So was there a point in time where you decided that, that was something that you wanted to go do?
Yeah, back in the old days, it was very much, hey, don't do it unless you can do it. And I did. I didn't fight in it until I knew I could. I'd also been on Entourage for Duke Baru, Duke Gareth, and Duke Ryan. So I'd been on multiple entourages. I knew the job. So I knew what was expected of you, kind of how much financing it would take to you. So I was very comfortable fighting in it, knowing that if I did win, I could. We didn't have a whole lot. First of all, big kingdom, so it was actually pretty expensive. It's a little different now. So especially when winning it 21 years later.
How did you choose your consort the first time?
Wife.
Oh, it was wife? Okay.
It was real easy.
That is easy.
No, she was perfect. So she was perfect. The epitome of queenness, princess and queenliness.
What is your tourney day sort of ritual to get yourself mentally in the right place?
Regular tournaments. Oh, you want crown tourney or regular tournaments?
If it's different than both?
Very different. So regular tournaments. Basically, I spy the field, take a look at who all's fighting. I kind of know I have game plans for everybody who I am fighting. And this is similar in both of them. So I'll think about it a little bit. But basically, I kind of go over my head, okay, what do I want my openers to be, my starting combos, stuff like that. Crown tournament is just making sure that I don't freeze up. I don't get too hesitant because I'm an aggressive fighter. And I'm also a counterpuncher too, depending on who I'm fighting. And just don't freeze. If I start freezing, if I don't know what I'm going to do, then you slow down. So
So how do you relax yourself so that you don't freeze?
For crowns, I usually do a warm up.
Okay.
I go out there. It helps with a little bit targeting because I get, so you're not targeting the first bout. It's just like, okay, this is my range I like to be in. This is where it's always at, and then I'll con somebody into coming out there and let me swing at him. Most of the time it's Sir Eric Martel. We've kind of traded doing that. So
you find somebody that is going to put you in the right frame of mind.
Yep.
And are you one of those people who between rounds doesn't like to talk to anyone, or?
Nope, I'm fine.
You're
I'll
fine?
Socialize. Now I do watch the tournament, and people come up and talk to me and stuff like that, and that's fine. The funny thing was, especially the first tournament, I went through the winners bracket, no losses. My wife, she didn't know that I was in the winners bracket, so there was a big long break there, and she kind of looked over at me and she says, "So, aren't you fighting anytime soon?" I was like, they'll get to me in a bit. Hey, let's go shop. So we went over and shopped at the merchants a little bit, came back, and I saw, because I knew I was in the finals, and I knew that they would make a big thing about it, and that the queens, and would bring all the consort, both consorts up there and stuff like that. This was before we had semis and everything. This was only the finals were the big to do.
So when you go through the winners bracket all the way, you get a break because the loser bracket obviously has more.
The way it was a significant break. So actually the shopping helped calm my mind. You don't get free, you don't get cold. I was moving a little, so that worked out. And she had no idea till we walked back to the tent. And
Did she tell you?
No. I said, "Oh, by the way, you have to go stand up by the queen now because I'm fighting in the final." And she went, "What?" It was fun.
That's cool. Somebody just called you Pookie. Is that your nickname?
Thanks, Morgan. That's our pet. That's my pet name from him. Yes. Sir Morgan is my sort of foster squire from Aunt Steora who moved over here, and Pookie's it. Or it could be Aiden too. I don't know.
Jason Mickey.
Yes, that's Aiden. He's my brother from another mother. Just kind of frightening. Yeah.
So that first round that you won, you obviously knew that it was going to be multi-weapon style. How did you train or change your training for that?
Fighting a bunch of crap, fighting different stuff. I do remember distinctly deciding on what 2 weapons form I would be doing. So Gareth and I had a couple of bouts together up in Decatur, and we realized that, well, he stuck with the 2 sword. I switched because every time we'd fight, it'd be whack, 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 ow, good, whack, 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 ow, good. And sometimes, in fact, most of the times it was ow, ow, good, good, ow, ow, good, good, ow, ow, good, good. And it was just horrible because we were as 100% offense. So I pulled out a Madu and used it as a shield. That was my second. I cheated a little. Yeah.
That's not cheating. That's playing to your strengths, right?
Well, yeah. I didn't know what to do with it. I never threatened anybody's face because I was worried to death that I'd jack somebody with it. But I did kind of poke it. Hey, your belly's open, and it pulled their offense over, and I'd pop them in the side of the head. So it worked. It worked at the time. But and fought a lot of glaive, 7-foot glaive, 7.5-foot glaive, and then just sword and shield. So really, just there's only 3 weapons forms, not spear and great. You didn't have to do great sword on great sword. You could. It was just two weapon, great weapon, sword and shield.
And was that the final? Was that the 3 you had to do in the
finals? They switched it. They just said whatever you want to play.
Oh.
And Earl Robert Glennon of Ox said, "So do you want to keep doing the weapon switch?" He says, and I told him, I said, "I'm gonna bring my sword and shield. You bring what you want."
So did you guys fight sword and shield, both of you?
We fought sword and shield.
That's funny.
Because he wasn't gonna fight glaive on me with me sword and shield. I'd have run him down. At that time, I had feet.
You had what?
I had good feet.
Oh, good feet. Oh, okay. So how did it feel to win crown the first time?
It was excellent. I was extremely happy is exciting, but also a little bit nerve wracking too. I was really happy to make my wife princess because that it was all about her that day. It really was. I mean, I wouldn't have won if she wouldn't have been there right beside me, and that it was totally for her. Being king's fun too. I'm not saying it's not bad, but yeah, it's definitely. But to me, is fighting in crown is definitely about the consort. It really is.
So did you have a plan for your reign, like things that you wanted to do?
Nothing to change. Like I said, we've been in enough of the entourages of multiple crowns that really you fix what's broken. Sometimes it's a little kingdom law thing here. Sometimes you have to deal with a couple of groups that aren't really playing well together, and I think we did that a lot. Not a lot, but a couple of specific ones. Just go and sit and listen to people. I mean, the bad thing about when the crown gets appealed to for help with group dissension is that, well, you got a little hammer and you got a big hammer, and sometimes just people want to be listened to. So tried to do that a lot, and then when you got to do the hammer thing, you do the hammer thing.
I think it's huge, just being able to let people know they're heard.
Yeah. That for one group, that's all it needed to happen, is that there was a bunch of people that were not communicating, got in the room, they communicated somewhat dysfunctionally, but at least they communicated, and
of course it was dysfunctional.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So what was your favorite thing you did your first reign?
First reign, the one that stands out just because it was big and not everybody else does is we got to go to 30 years. So came out to your land and got to fight. Got to go out there and do the big opening ceremonies or closing ceremonies. I don't remember which one we did, but with everybody else, the whole known world type stuff, and got to I can't remember was it Glenmere? Yeah, the Barony of Glenmere. They hosted us, and it was wonderful. So I just put armor and a little bit of garb on the airplane over there, and they just were just like any Meridian group would, if not better in some aspects. It set us up. We had food all the time. I had entourage wherever we went. We brought two people with us as well, and I think it was the Baron at the time was David Moffat, and he's a real good friend he's the brother of a real good friend of mine, Alan Moffat. Rest his soul, or David rest his soul.
Yeah,
Alan's still around, so yeah.
David was amazing.
Yes. And like I said, they bent over backwards. It was incredible. So we didn't have the award with us, but we gave them a Crown's favor that you give to groups in Meridies Forum, and it was the least we could do. It was fantastic.
So do you have a favorite story from 30th year?
Yeah.
Some good ones.
Okay, well, it was actually one of my favorite experiences. So all the kings and princes decided to have a fighter practice.
Oh, fun.
So we all went into this I think it was a covered pavilion. Bytor was there. I think not Paul Bellatrix, his son. I can't remember.
Stephen or Brian?
I think the older one, Stephen.
Sure, Stephen.
Yeah, so I got to fight him some. Got to fight Bytor, and everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and one-shotting at Bellatrix was kind of fun, but then he crawled me and beat the crap out of me. The one person who I could not touch, and it was Duke Thorne, and he did something, I don't know what he was doing, but it wasn't meshing with what I was doing. And we had but he invited me to, after we'd fought, he invited me to his camp later, and we kind of hung out because his either wife or girlfriend or consort, whatever, at the time she danced. So, and I had a drum with me, and so I was drumming, and then we got into the deepest fighting sort of Zen conversation, and beer was involved, so that helps too. But it was the night was really nice. The wind was crazy, but it was it was really surreal. It was a real great experience.
Yeah, Thorn's one of my mentors. He's just a great guy. We call him the machine. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
mistakes.
his style at the time was I was like, because usually I can lay a stick on somebody after I watch them a little bit. I watched him after I fought him, and I think we fought one more time. Nah, couldn't touch him.
We used to have the Thorn rule where he was only allowed to hold the middle of a bear pit twice, and then he had to get out. None of us got to fight.
Does not surprise me at all.
Somebody wants you to explain Zen fighting.
Zen fighting. Okay.
Is that a joke, or should we pass on it?
No. I mean, because I just mentioned it with him. So, no. I mean, it's kind of like when somebody's throwing a blow, your sword is drawn to the block, and when there's an opening, your sword is drawn to it, and really, it's like really being in the moment, where all of a sudden, like, you're totally out of position like this, and somebody throws a big giant thing, and you just flip your sword back and catch it, and you did not see it, you just did it. So it's kind of that sort of thing where you'll get into some different stuff. But yeah, Thorn had a whole lot of, I would almost call them metaphysical type explanations of it. So if that was kind of part of it, but like I said, it was very deep.
I think
very oriental type stuff.
Yeah, Al-Anon would call that flow, right? Like you're in a state of flow.
Yeah.
So speaking of Al-Anon, he says that you have to tell me about the Feisty Boys.
That's where we get to the rapping.
Okay.
So the Feisty Boys were Duke Gareth, Duke Brew, Sir Connell, myself. We formed this after we actually saw John the Bear Killer do his Period As You Want to Be rap, and had a couple other Squire brothers, Ronnie and Al of Brew and Connell's, who came up with some folk songs, some knockoffs of some Elvis tunes, but we really, the Feisty Boy rap is what kind of jumped us on in to it a little bit. So, okay, if you'd like to hear a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, just give us a smidge.
All right. Oh, the feast was good, though we ate too fast. Now we can't wait for our next repast. Better hide your food when we come through the door, or we'll eat it all and yell for more. Oh, the feastocrat is our best friend, and we hope this feast will never end. The table is empty, but we have no fear, 'cause that won't last if the kitchen's near. 'Cause the kitchen crew will hear our call. They'll bring us food, and we'll eat it all. We're so tired. We're tired and hungry we could eat a horse. So won't you please bring out the next course? Speaking of horses at a feast or two, you could hardly tell what they were feeding you. There was soupy mush, stuffed leaves of the grape, and chunky gray lumps that taste like duct tape. These aren't the things a fighter wants to eat, so take away this gruel and bring on the meat.
Nice.
You know we'd like to stay, you know we will be back, but now we have to go and have a little snack phrase. And we have a lot of other lyrics in there too, but I kind of shortened it.
Nice. Cool. So after your first reign, you had a break, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was about well, I didn't fight in Crown for a couple of times because married, then pregnant, and first child sort of thing, and then we had some difficulties with her health, which really kind of pushed me out of the SCA for a good anywhere between 7 and 11 years. You know, kind of dabbling here and there, but not doing hardcore. And sometimes I just, for a couple of years it was just too hard.
Yeah. So when you came back after that, how did you, because one of the hardest things I think for somebody of a Duke caliber is to take a break like that and then come back and not be as good as they were, right?
Right.
So how did you deal with that, and how did you get your prowess back up? Because you won another crown just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So when I came back, first of all, the reason why I came back is friends. This the reason why I travel all the time is just, there you got your family and your chosen family. And your chosen family is who you want to go see. And I'd lost touch with a lot of them. And I felt real bad about it too, because some good friends, I missed parts of their lives that I could have been with. And so I came back and really did a couple events and got talking with them and rediscovered why I love the FCA, or why I love these people as well. And then I jumped back in, fixed up my armor, got a new kit, got a new fighting style, picked up some things, out on Duke Seth, showed me the Branos way a little bit. So, which I didn't adopt right off the bat. I thought, what's this A-frame crap? But the footwork really, really, really called to me. And so I changed up how I do my footwork. The rest of the guarding and stuff was probably old school, kind of high guard, rotary type defense, which he kind of does too. Right. It's not all this. He's all over there too, but I'm a little bit more all over there. But the footwork thing really, really keyed to me. Plus the inside. So I'm a very swoopy fighter, so getting the inside line stuff. I use a lot of inside line to set up my swoopy stuff, because since it's kind of the A-frame and that type of style where just quick jabs, everybody does this to kind of fix that up. Well, then that sets up the jab into the pop where it comes over here. And so it's something that I'm constantly working on. That's not my strength of my game. So if they take away my swoopy, that has to be on point. I have to really get the good jabs in there to get the slots and or the little stab to the nose and stuff like that. But changed shield style again. Went to a center grip. Went to a center grip kite because I was doing Norman and Templar, and got an Acer helmet. And just the year prior to me fighting in Crown, I did what like I did the first time. Is just I hit all the major tournaments. Got to fight most of the people who've been fighting in Crown lists most of the time. So I kind of had a plan. There's only a couple of guys, Sir Johan, I didn't have a plan for, because I'd never fought him and I'd never seen him fight, and I was a little worried about him because he was my first fight of the whole thing. And I can't remember who I asked about. I said, so how does he fight? He said, kind of like a bear. He's going to come after you really, really hard. Think of it as a big giant bear coming after you. I'm like, okay, so run away. Okay, I can do that. I can run away. Yeah, that's what he did.
Do you guys not have the challenge round the first round where unbelts challenge?
Depends. Every Crown list is a little bit different. That time it was just it was a draw. I don't remember if it wasn't done. I don't remember if it was done off of. I don't think it was done off of seniority or whatever you call it, precedence. Because I fought until I hit Isaac. I fought knights the whole time. Every bout was a knight, I think, till Isaac, who beat me, and then I met him in the finals, and then I beat him. He had a good day. He was having a really good day.
So somebody says you won like one of like a bear pit tournament, one of your first events back. So you didn't. It's not like you lost a whole bunch on your break.
No, people forgot how I fought, so that helped. Also, I kind of got back in shape a bit before I started, really, really getting into it. But yeah, I mean, speed. If you just got speed, you got a chance. And as long as you keep, defense. Most people's the sword blows hadn't changed a whole lot from 20 years back as far as that. The defenses had changed a lot more thrusting tips, usage. So, but a lot of people were using them. I won't say it wrong, but not to the best benefit, I'll say. They were leading off with them, and they weren't. I like leading off with a thrusting tip poke or probe, just to kind of see what people are going to do and say, hey, remember, hey, I got this little stabby thing. It might get you in the face if you walk into it. But I hardly ever lead off with it. I'll counter with it sometimes, but there was a lot of people trying to almost do fencing maneuvers, and also people, we got a lot of people crossover with light fighting.
So what made you decide to go for another crown when you came back?
So told you before, Mrs. Rhiannon, who was one of my two SCA moms, Duke Gareth had fought for her once, so she was a countess. And so she'd been a countess for quite some time. And my wife isn't playing right now. She was busy with her job. She also takes care of my daughter, who can't really, she's disabled. So SCA events aren't really, really great for disabled who have motory and, sun allergy type stuff. It's just, and plus she doesn't really enjoy it. She'd much rather go to an anime con than go to an SCA event. So my wife I asked her, I said, hey, is it okay if I fight for someone else? And I asked if Rhiannon's okay. And she said, yeah, that's fine. And so that would be my first choice if you ever fought for someone else. Talked to her, and she said, yeah. And so that's when I started hitting it up there. And it was great to be able to offer to get her the upgrade in hat, Plus also SCA, I start feeling a little like you have to give back to the SCA as well. Give back to it. And really being crowned is one of the highest levels of service that you can do. I mean, yeah, you get a lot of stuff with it, but really it's a good amount of work. And it's high level, and you're really, really, to do the job correctly, you're playing a really important role in the way we have our society. So,
and it gives you a lot of power to influence in a way that if you're not sitting, you have to cultivate more. It gives you that opportunity to do things that maybe you couldn't do.
Right. But again, we were lucky. We were following Bartholomew and Oda, and there was some stuff, but there was nothing really to fix. You have to deal with the hard choices, like somebody does a felony at an event, just out of the blue, and you go, well, okay, that's an R&D, real easy. So you do that, and that's the difference between 20 years of doing Crown, is that everything happens so much faster now than versus 20 years ago. I mean, email wasn't considered official correspondence back then. You had to write letters.
Yeah, everything's so instant now.
Yeah. So there's good and bad to that, because sometimes, knee-jerk reactions aren't the best thing in certain aspects. So sometimes you need to sit on it a day or two. But when you got 15 groups pinging your Facebook all the time, and asking you permission for this, and I need warrants signed for that, I was like, wait a minute, what happened here?
So is that one of the biggest changes that you noticed from first reign to second reign?
Yeah. Social media connectivity. Usually you did most of your back in 20 years ago, you had a day or two of prep. And then you kind of worked the event, but it was kind of fun, and you kind of did your thing. And then you had a little bit of back time, and you had phone calls and stuff like that, but not as much business and as much decision making or approvals of stuff. That was the Kingdom officers did a whole lot more of that but somehow it wound up getting to the crown somehow. And I don't know who did it. And maybe it was like one crown said, I want to approve that. And then another crown said, well, I want to approve that. And they kind of get lumped up there. But that's the one thing I noticed. And since I didn't, serve on I did help a little bit with some entourages when I came back, but not as in depth. It was probably a little more shocking to me than the first crown was, because I knew what I was getting into there. The second one was like, oh, okay, I can handle this. We can handle this. The great thing of Rhiannon, she's down in Mobile. I was up in Atlanta. We could divide and conquer. So she could go to events to help out, to support this place. I would support that place. She'd go be ambassador over to Glen Ave and over here, and I'd go to War College here, which she didn't want to go to. She go to Heraldic Symposium up in Knoxville. I thanked her very much for that because she took the bullet for that. You know, no, I would have gone. Actually, she had a good time. It's just so freaking long to get up there, but
yeah, it's a long drive.
But we were a good team. I mean, she handled part of it, and I handled part of it. And a lot of the award recommendations being online is fantastic, where you don't have this big giant box of letters you're carrying around. It's just it was a lot. It's a lot faster that way. So,
what was your favorite part of your second read?
MGT was pretty fun. Actually, that was a great day. I had a great time with Meridian Grand Tournament.
Okay.
So it's our premium tournament, and when I was first crowned, you don't get to preside over it because they didn't have it. But then now we've got it, and it's really just for heavy fighting, it's just a celebration of it.
Is that an annual event? Is that an annual event?
Yes. Yep. It happens every year. And it's like 7 tournaments or 5 or 6 tournaments that break down into a one finals tournaments, all single limb, but all different weapon styles and everything like that. And then you get, and each of the polling order or some of the non-polling orders of the kingdom sponsor a tournament, and they'll give a prize to whoever wins that part of the tournament. And then there's a big prize for whoever wins the whole thing. Yeah, it's fantastic. The pageantry, there's awards for setting it up. I think Alan, that was one of his favorite ones. I think I remember him talking about it a little bit. Yeah, it's just a fantastic display and just everybody is so focused on the tournament. And that actually brings me back before we had a whole lot of other activities, back when we were it was a little simpler times, but where fighting was a little bit more the main, heavy fighting was more the main thing. So it kind of gives you a day. We also have a light fighting one called Meridian College of Arms, which is actually, I was Prince at the time. That was actually fun to watch too. Very similar, but all light fighting. I saw Cut and Thrust the first time. I said, I got to do that because it looked fun, and now I have. So it's a fun thing.
Are you hooked?
I got gear, so I guess I am.
Yeah, I guess you are then. So, do you have squires and pendants? Yeah.
So I lost a bunch of some of them in the break. I passed off a couple, said, "Hey, I'm not going to be active. Can you take care of them?" And a couple of knights stepped up, and some others just kind of moved off and are doing their own thing. And some aren't. Most of those aren't playing SCA. I have a new one now. Her name is Dorothea. She's a daughter of a good friend of mine. She's bright spanking new, 18, 19-ish. She's got a wicked rap. But she's fun to work with, especially hopefully when we all get back doing it officially again, and looking to see her progress. She's got good basics, really has. She did a lot of youth fighting, so it's just refining it and tuning it a little bit to the heavy side and having to deal with 300-pound guys pushing her around.
Yeah, when you're in armor, you kind of just, you feel like you're the same size. I don't know.
Well, that's yes.
I don't know. That's one of the very coolest things about fighting is that you just you forget your height, your weight, whatever, and you're just in the moment. I hope she does well and she kicks ass. So
I think she's got a bright future. So
all right,
I'll be happy to see where she goes.
Have we missed anything that you wanted to talk about? Because we're at about an hour. And
oh no.
Okay, well, let's look at your sword. You can tell us how you make it.
All right. So sword. So this is my Pell sword right now because it's kind of broomed up right here. So I just use it on my Pell. What I wanted to show a little bit is mostly about the grip. I think that's what most people talk about. So the trigger, I made the mistake when I was first started with the trigger by just using one finger like this. And if you can kind of see, there's a bump right there. I actually did a fracture in my hand by overextending or something like that. So I can't close it all the way. That's when I close it, that's all I can do. So I changed my grip into a Spider-Man grip. So I use these two fingers down here. I have to have a flat side here to feel it on the tips of my fingers so that I can actually know where my blade orientation is. So when I do weird flippy stuff, I know exactly where the cutting edge is. I use this little fabric tape to make little, I twist it into a little rope and go down and then wrap it back on up there. Really, really helps keep it in your hand. Using different types of for a thrusting tip, I just use the very low profile. I use this type of strapping tape. It's called Scotch Extreme strapping tape. It's got a crisscross in it, and you will not shoot. Especially if you kind of sand the top of your sword a little bit on the edge there, you won't shear off your thrusting tip.
Is your thrusting tip tool dipped, or is that tape?
That's just tape.
Okay.
Just tape. Yeah, that's this tape. Now this I got a little bit from Duke Adamar, is the fabric tape. If you put it on the tip of your thrusting thing, it doesn't slide as much. It'll actually kind of stick, so you'll have less whoopses. It'll kind of go into a grill, so you won't slide as much. He also does it on the cutting edge, but I don't like it on that. So
cool. All right. So somebody says that you need to show me your ducal cornet. So let's do that before we hit the last 10.
Hang on.
Okay.
So when I got it, can you still hear me? I unplugged it, but it's just on battery. So when I got it, it's kind of Templar theme. There's some Maltese crosses in there too. But I said, hey.
Oh, that is cool.
Got the little strawberry leaves in it. It also has a little extra bit to it. If I can get it going. So it's got LED lights.
Nice. So you have your pure trick. Just put it on and
yep.
Yeah.
So it's really fun in dark parties. Except if there's people who are susceptible to seizures, I do have to state a standard warning to it. But Dougal, Master Dougal from Untitled did that for me. So he did a real good job. It's aluminum, so it's really light.
It's very pretty. It looks like it's all acid etched. Is that what it?
He did something to it. I don't know if he acid etched or if he just used a scribe. I can't remember. It looks more scribey than acid to me. But
that's cool.
I didn't. It's his trade secrets.
All right. So let's do the final 10.
Okay.
If you could fight anyone in the world, who would it be?
That's easy and hard at the same time. I mean, there's always a standard answer, but really, who I'd love to, he's no longer here anymore, and that would be Earl Richard. I would love our last fight. We went out to Callantyre, called St. George and the Dragon. He was doing honoring a promise he made to a young fighter out there. Said, "Hey, we'll go to your event." That he met at Battlemore. And so we did the Templar pilgrimage out there. And we've been doing it every year since then too, just more or less to honor Rick too as well. And there was a bear pit out there. And if people who know Richard, he doesn't fight with thrusting tips. He's not a real big fan of them. In fact, he'll say knights use the cutting edges of their sword.
Noble edge.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we always shoot back at him. So, well, why do you sharpen the point? And he said, for peasants. And I was like, oh, okay, good, okay. So anyway, we were fighting in the bear pit, and he does a really great jump pop shot. So you have to respect it, and I did. I fell for it 100%. He cracked me on the leg. I dropped to my knees. I know how he's going to fight me. He's going to crawl up in there, spread me apart, and then just hammer me. So that's exactly what he did. He came up there. I got my elbow on the inside of his shield. He caught the pop I was trying to get to him, and then I went into his belly, and he froze there, and he said, "Good." And no lie, I went, "I'm sorry." That's exactly what I said. And we were laughing at a beer later, but if I could refight that fight, I'd cut my thrusting tip off there, and we just hammered out old school like back at the time. So that would be my dream fight.
Cool. That's a cool one. Who would you like to see reign in your kingdom?
Probably Sir Connell and Mistress Gwenwyn. He's done well, and then he doesn't. So he kind of flip flops back and forth. They would be excellent king, king and queen, sovereign consort. I mean, they would be excellent. She did this all this embroidery. Her and her
I was
team.
noticing that. It's very pretty.
Yeah, all her. That's her and her crew did our coronation garb the second time, and it's just beautiful embroidery all the way. And she's, they would kick it. It would be a awesome reign.
People in the SDA are so generous and talented.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if you could talk fighting with anyone in the world for an hour, who would it be?
I'll be boring and say Branos.
Well, there's a reason why a lot of people say Branos. So
yeah. Well, I also, I'm also not the guy who hunts out the like at Adult Swim. I'd like to talk to all the unbelts and squires and stuff. I like fighting with anybody. Sometimes I'll when we're doing fighter practice back in the day when we have it, I'll analyze what they're doing. I'll say, you need to do this, and this. I try to remember, only give them 2. Just give them 2 things to work on. If I give them 6, it's gone.
But that's why you should have a fighting notebook, people, so that if he gives you 6, you can go back to your notebook, write it all down, and so you don't have to keep it in your brain.
Good point.
I'm a big proponent of fighting notebooks. All right. What is your favorite medieval-esque or period movie?
Okay, it was the easy one until I saw Troy. So it was Excalibur, but that one-on-one battle between Achilles and Hector, that kind of sold me. So I'm going to lean to Troy.
All right.
That and I have a little man crush on Brad Pitt in that movie, just a wee bit.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah, he's pretty. He's so pretty.
Yes, he's so pretty. If you could add or subtract a rule to the rules of the list, what would it be?
It's hard to explain it. In fact, I probably couldn't verbalize it, but if there was some way that you could incorporate in tournaments, one-on-one tournaments, or rules of the list type stuff, that you don't leave the field mad, basically. Don't leave the field unsatisfied. So if you have a gripe, you have a grudge, you have something, you stay there till you figure it out. The way I fight, and I figured this out early in a crown list, but I fought like that anyway, is that my job out there is to make sure that my opponent leaves this fight with clear. I don't want him to think that I missed something, that something kinky went wrong. If he thinks he got me, he got me. I don't care. So that's kind of me. But I would like for everybody to not go over to the side and say, man, that guy rhinoed me. I want him to stay out there and say, I think I got you. I don't really care. I'm not calling your shot for you, but I just want you to know that I think I got you. And then your opponent can have the opportunity to say, well, I don't think you did. And maybe the marshals would come in there. But a lot of times we had 2 people just kind of go, okay. And in the worst case scenarios I've seen, and especially in some high level crowns, that somebody throws their helmet on the ground and walks off. No, stay there. I wish that we would kind of make sure that, fighting's communication. And if sometimes there are miscommunications, some people think they got you and they don't, and a marshal can weigh in or not. And I'm all about don't leave the field with bad feelings. Settle it there, make sure it's good, and then leave.
And if we would all do it, then it would become normalized, and there wouldn't be this stigma attached, like you're questioning your opponent's honor. Like it should be okay for both of the people to understand what happened in the fight and to leave the fight knowing that they might not be happy, but they understand each person's perspective.
Yep.
So I totally agree with that.
I don't know how to make that a rule or verbalize it quite right there. I mean, it could be just honorable combat, but I think a little bit more on the don't leave mad. Don't leave mad.
What is your favorite tournament format?
Bear pit. You get so much fighting. Plus, I like double limbs too, but bear pit, you have it's good for everybody. You can fight in as long as you can fight in it, you know?
What's your favorite event?
I'll have to say Gulf Wars because it's like a giant family reunion. So before when I took off, Glenavon was still part of Meridies, and I saw a lot of Glenaveners who would come over here. We'd go over there. I still see a couple of them that are like really close to the border come over here, but not as many as I used to. So Gulf Wars is kind of like a giant, big old backyard fighting family reunion where I get to see everybody who I used to see back in the day from Shreveport and Biloxi, and then other people from other kingdoms come in here. A lot of Kalantiri come over there, so that we go out to see the St. George. So they come there and we hang out, have a good time. So it's just a real good, fun time.
Cool. If you could have any helmet, regardless of cost, what kind would it be?
I'm not gonna say Ugo. No, there's one I've been watching because I wouldn't fight in that. If I paid like $1 million for a helmet, I was like, it'd be on the stand. Now, the other kit I would like is a 14th century, because my first persona was 14th century Scott, and I would like a 14th century rig, and I love Sugarloaf, so I'd probably get one of those really fancy dancy Acer stainless but antiqued with the brassy things with a faceplate, but then I'd have to get everything else, and
My Squire has one of those. They're very pretty.
Yeah, I got 2 Acers right now. I got one of those Normans and that little stainless Roman thing right now.
I'm noticing that back there. It's very pretty.
Thank you.
Okay. It's Saturday morning, we'll say at Gulf Wars, and several people want to talk to you about last night. What did you do?
Oh, well, maybe it didn't involve Jello shots, but it was probably I hit the cowbell a little too late in the evening. I used to bring a bag of toys, because I bring drums, and I'd want an orchestra of drums, and some people can't play drums, but they can definitely like have little egg shakers and little simple things. Well, I used to bring a cowbell. That's not very appreciated at 3 a.m. outside certain tents. So it sounds good though.
All right. Who's your favorite fight ever?
So many. I think it's got to be Gareth. Dude Gareth. Before he won his last Glenavon crown, he was over here on work, and he said, "Hey, can you come on down here? I need to train up a little bit, or just I need some old school training time." And His Majesty Timothy it was his fighter practice that we went to, and so we tooled it up. We teed it up old school. We were right in each other's grill, throwing multiple combinations. Back in the day, it wasn't 1, 2, 3 shots. It was 12 to 14 shot combos, and you were hook and shield, bash and shield, moving. It's just it's a slugfest. And we got done, because it's very exerting. And again, we forget to breathe. Go and so finally we get tired and looked over at Tim. And he says, "Y'all, what was that?" And we were calling everything. He just said, "That style isn't common." I was like, "Yeah, it's old school. That's what we used to do." And you lose yourself in the fight. You don't think. You're not thinking. You're reacting. You can't think of it. It's happening so fast that you're just throwing, block, throw, block, throw. It becomes a pattern almost.
Cool. And then the bonus question is, who is the cleanest fighter in your kingdom?
Dang. My gut says my first reaction to that, because he has a light switch on how he calls, is Sir Connell. Because when he hits, it's almost he hits the ground harder than you hit him, because he just drops. But in all honesty, I'm going to have to go with Sir Wulfric Peveril, because I have never seen him ever have an extended conversation after a fight or during a fight. It's good or it's not good. He comes off the field, even if it looks like he may have gotten it when he didn't. He says, it's fine. So he's very generous in his calling and with other people's calling. Never has an ill word to say about anybody. So I'd say Wolford.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. This has been really fun. Thanks
thank you
for rapping. Thanks everyone else.
Did something John didn't do.
I know. I should have dove into it. Thanks everyone else for joining us. The next Duke I'm talking to is Duke Hirsch, and that will be Saturday, and that should be fun too.
52.
And
I bet you he won't rap.
I have to thank Al-Anon for hooking me up with you. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.